Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. If you remember, about a month or so ago, Dr. Lisa Cameron crossed the floor. She left the SNP and she went to the Tories, of all people. It was a brave move. It goes to show that she herself felt uncomfortable being in the SNP, and she exposed the SNP for the bullying, intolerant culture that it is. Since then, she's had to move to a new house. She's had to have security, and all sorts of awful threats have been made against her and her family. One doesn't expect much less from the thugs and, assholes, for the want of a better word, in the SNP. Well, she's come out to explain now how she's living behind a reinforced front door for her own safety, and how she's describing nationalism as a failed experiment. And I think it was never going to be anything other, because most people reject it. It's just a quick thing. I just wanted to sort of show the follow-up to the story, because it was a big story at the time. But it goes to show that it's still going on for her, because they're so unforgiving in their nature. How dare she leave them? They're still threatening her. Are they really that threatened by a single middle-aged woman? Seems so. Moral cowards, methinks. Here goes. So SNP defector Lisa Cameron is living with reinforced front door, as she says nationalism is a failed experiment. The East MP for East Kilbride, you know what? I'm not getting this wrong. It says Starthaven, but I know it's Straven. For heaven's sake. Anyway, she reckons. I tell you, the level of journalism these days. Anyway, she reckons Scottish politics is returning to its pre-2014 landscape, facing threats from nasty nats after moving to the Tories, because she's fed up. They kept threatening her. They kept pushing her. They kept bullying her. She couldn't do anything. And every time she said, can we look at this? Can we look at that? No. Now, of course, she's a professional mental health expert. And she was talking about the gender issue, and saying that it needs to be looked at deeper. Now, she's speaking as someone who is what we like to call an expert. The SNP, the others in the SNP, are not experts. And they disliked the fact that she knew what she was talking about. And they gave her so much abuse, because she could actually come up with facts. And facts are anathema, of course, to the SNP. Anyway, SNP defector Dr. Lisa Cameron has branded Scottish nationalism a failed experiment, as she revealed she's having to live behind a reinforced front door for her and her family's safety. The MP for East Kilbride, they've done it again. Starthaven. What is wrong with these people? Straven and Les Mahago caused shockwaves in politics when she ditched the SNP for the Scottish Conservatives last month. She was forced to flee her home after sickening threats of abuse from nasty nats amid fears for her safety, with one message saying, "I hope you burn." She has now been able to return home, but had been forced to take security measures in her own home. Apparently she's also got, and this is something I read elsewhere, she has a panic button that connects directly to the police. And the very fact that she needs it is worrying, but I'm glad she has got it. Anyway, in an interview with GB News, to be aired today, may well already, what time is it? Oh no, it might just be. It's only just coming up 10 past 10 as we're doing this. Dr. Cameron praised the support she has received from both the Westminster Parliament and her new Tory colleagues. She singled out Rishi Sunak for special praise, describing him as kind. Well, he's some kind of something. I wouldn't describe him as a kind person. He doesn't come across as kind, does he? He doesn't come across as psychopathic, I'll grant you that. Not like the likes of, Nicola Sturgeon, but he doesn't strike me as particularly kind. He's probably just going, oh, yes, come here, my dear. Because it's another vote, isn't it? It's another Tory seat. Speaking to Gloria De Piero, Dr. Cameron said, Parliament and local police and the Parliamentary Security Service have been amazing. I have to say, he said, we've had a number of risk management procedures put in place for myself, for my family and for the staff. Because the Nats are just thugs. They're just thugs. They don't like anyone going against what their perverted view of the world is. And if you stand up against them, they threaten you. And if you're the sort of person that will listen to the threats, it can be quite intimidating. Ultimately, you just tell them to go F themselves, because there's nothing they can actually do apart from physical harm. But at that point, you know you've already won. The very fact that they're running scared of you means you know you've won. Anyway, she said, we've had to have our home Sort of reinforced in a sense. They're putting a very strong steel door in my house, which I can hardly even imagine that I have. I mean, it's reinforced steel. It looks nice, but, you know, I've had to have a new window panes put in. Probably anti-shot, you know. It looks nice and all that, but it's been very, very shocking that politics in Scotland could sink to those depths, to be honest, and appear to be so divided and toxic. The reason it's divided and toxic is because of Nicola Sturgeon. She, becoming leader, deliberately divided the country. She did the them and us. She dehumanised people who weren't in the SNP. It's the classic move of a sociopath. It's the classic move of someone with dictatorial mindset, really. If you can dehumanise your enemy, it makes it easier to dispose of them. There are certain religions you may be aware of where they treat animals appallingly, you know, in the way that they kill them. But it's to teach children that just killing like that, it's fine, and there's no emotional contact with killing animals, and where they can kill animals without emotion. Of course, they then grow up to be able to kill people with no emotion. Can't imagine what I'm talking about. Anyway, asked if she'd been scared, Dr. Cameron responded, "I think you're always scared as a mother for your children, and that's my main concern. My children and my staff," she said. "The sort of key thing for me is making sure we were all in a place of safety, and that's why we moved for the period of time under advice, and also for the office and the constituency closed until appropriate risk management and can be put in place to protect my staff from the thugs of the SNP," which Humza Yousaf is not denouncing. He will not denounce them. He needs them. It's the only way he can get his particular brand of disastrous perversion of what he calls democracy ahead. And by democracy, he means single party state. No alternative view will be tolerated. The SNP way. Reminds you of someone else, doesn't it? In the 30s, in Germany, perhaps. It said, "I think I've given everything I've been through. I'm quite resilient in the fact that I feel it's important that those people are basically bullies and they're not going to win in this scenario. They've already lost, darling. They've already lost. Therefore, those making threats are not going to stop me doing my job every day in my parliament and in the constituency." Dr. Cameron has previously spoken of her struggles within the SNP group at Westminster. She prescribed antidepressants, suffered panic attacks and attended counselling, with Dr. Cameron disagreeing with the SNP's handling of the Patrick Grady scandal, another issue. She didn't want him back either because she doesn't like the idea of sharing a platform with the toucher-upper of other people's children. She said, "The move to the Tories came about when the Prime Minister reached out to me to find out how I was doing." She said her own upbringing in the Conservative home and cross-party work she'd done at Westminster made the move easier. I just say well done to her. Very brave to do it to the Tories from where she was. But the very fact that she was so eager to leave the SNP is more telling about the SNP, I think, pushing her out than the Tories welcoming her in. But that's what we expect, nothing less of the SNP. Vicious, nasty, brutish, ignorant, hate-filled, divisive. Scum, basically. Scum. She said, "I think people are sort of reverting back to perhaps where they were before 2014, before the referendum. Perhaps if you're right of centre or left of centre, the polls are suggesting that people won't move back to those directions. Therefore, I think in some ways my journey is one that has been the first in Parliament. But I think in terms of the population of Scotland, it's probably going to be quite ordinary in the next election." Yeah, a lot of people are moving away from the hate-filled scum of the SNP. We've seen the figures. We did the thing this morning where the figures are they're moving to Labour and the Tories. They're moving away from the SNP. People have, quite frankly, had enough of failure, of division and hate. And they want a change. Well done. I still salute you, Lisa Cameron. If you'd have got to Labour, I still salute you. You are brave in leaving because you knew what would happen. So, yeah, well done and best of luck. Nice to see someone educated making a good, taking a brave stance, shall we say, against the thuggery and the ignorance of the SNP. I'm coming up. You know, the truth of the matter is it wouldn't take too many more and the SNP could be in big trouble. And I think there's still one or two that may go. It wouldn't surprise me if Joanna Cherry jumped ship. And I couldn't tell you if Joanna Cherry jumped Labour or Tory. I think she could go either way. That's That's not an allusion to her sexuality. No, but I think Joanna Cherry is someone who wouldn't take much of a push for her to leave the SNP. She's reviled within the party because she stands up for women's rights and the right to women to even exist. And they don't like that for some reason. And so I think that Joanna Cherry is someone who, again, will possibly go. Some of the others definitely won't because they're too foaming at the mouth, rolling eyes, chattering class SNP. But Cherry might. Let's see. Anyway, dog agrees. Anyway, you know what that is. Somebody's walking past the house. How dare they? Anyway, thank you very much for watching. We'll round that off there. I'll come up. No, I am up. My dog's putting me off, isn't he? We'll round that there. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and remember, dogs bark a lot. Bye.